Welcome to the Digital Dreaming Off the Gridiron podcast. It is a victory Monday, but also a loser Monday, depending on where you are, if you're in Northern California or if you're in the city of Chicago. But we're going to break down both of those matchups in addition to a great week 8 of NFL action, in addition to WWE, which was a monster week for both Raw and SmackDown, and, major updates across the board heading into Crown Jewel. I am your host, Asif Ali, joined by my co-host of the most, number 24, Cortez Brand Jr., out there in Chicago. Let me just ask first, my co-host of the most, how's your weekend, brother? How you doing today? How we feeling?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I just got back from Reno. But let's just get right into it, baby.
Well, yeah,
All right.
you know what I was doing all weekend.
Yeah, yes, I do. All right, let's get right
Winning another
into it.
championship.
Yes, sir. Congratulations to, and is it Team USA Revolution or
International.
Team USA International for winning their bowl game in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, this
Yes,
past
sir.
uh this past Sunday or Saturday, I forgot the day. But essentially, yeah, congratulations on that. Congratulations to me. I'm a rich man as of this weekend, so oh, not really, but anyways, let's get right into it. All right, starting off with Sunday night matchup of the Sunday night football main event. Obviously, it's halftime Monday Night Football. That game is just trash, Steelers and Giants. But now we're going to start off with the San Francisco 49ers righting their wrong and getting the win over their not vaunted, but obviously their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the 49ers now improved to 4-4 on season. Final score 30-24. Brock Purdy had 254 yards passing, a touchdown, I believe it would be 2 touchdowns, 56 yards on the ground rushing, and a rushing touchdown. He actually beat the Cowboys, with his legs, making plays with his leg. George Kittle got the belt yesterday. Actually, Brock Purdy as well got the belt yesterday. Isaac Grendo as well. The rookie basically had a 50-plus yard game, averaged around 6 yards a carry. Almost could have scored a touchdown near the end, but he decided to slide down. The smart decision, a savvy vet move for a rookie. Niners take the win over Dallas, 30-24. They're now second in the NFC West division, heading into their now bye week. Obviously, last time we were on here, you and I was very angry. I was adamant, and I apologize to my fellow Niner faithful, and and shout out now to our new subscribers who are now tuning in. I was very, very, caught up in the heat of the moment with my anger because of how poorly they played against the now undefeated 7-0 Kansas City Chiefs. Now you see the 49ers sitting here at 4-4, heading into the bye week. So, from my initial take on that game yesterday, obviously I love what I saw from the offense. The defense was straggling near the end, and essentially they let the Cowboys hang around. They almost had let the Cowboys not only get back in the game, but also win that game near the end. CeeDee Lamb had over 140 yards, and obviously secondary still has cleanup to do. But ultimately, overall, I give the game, I want to say, like a B, a solid B for the Niners. And I love the belts at the end, man. You and me are, we rocking the hardware. You all see the
I,
case
I
behind me.
liked I liked the fact that they brought the belts out, but what
Yeah.
I didn't like was the fact that they were cheap.
Yeah, they're very cheap.
And there was like the 49ers literally have a WWE shop belt that they could have used. They also
Right.
could have reached out directly to like they could have reached out directly to WWE beforehand and been like, hey, we need a special belt made because WWE has like 6 belt makers that they use, like six
Indeed.
professional belt makers that they could have made a belt for them.
And obviously because George Kittle being such a huge fan of wrestling, I really think, and obviously it was a National Tight End Day champion belt for the 49ers Dallas Cowboys by NBC, Sunday Night Football. I think they made it for George being a fan. George has connections that run deep. You and I talk about Bailey. You and I talk about Triple H. Obviously they're all tuned in to George and Travis and Gronk and all the tight ends who have been, and obviously now Mahomes as well as many members of the Chiefs who have been also involved in WWE. So I really think it would have been, like you said, it would have been like no skin off the nose of Triple H, to actually, put something together for the Sunday Night Football matchup. I would love to see something for the Turkey Bowl matchup for Thanksgiving. If WWE busts out some belts for whoever comes out, and wins, the Thanksgiving Turkey Bowl. Yeah, yep, exactly. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, what were your impressions from the game? And now heading into the second stretch of the season, the Niners sit at 4-4. Last year, at this point in the season, they're 5-3.
Well,
So they're only one game back.
I was going to use this as a reference. The two of the last 3 times that they have been in the NFC Championship game, they started 4-4.
They did, correct.
two of the last three times they've been in the NFC Championship game, and this is
That
all under the man that we don't like at the moment.
Kyle
Uh,
Shanahan.
I and this is where I will say the 49ers showed incredible fortitude towards the end of this game and the middle of this game. But the
Mhm.
first half was piss poor effort from the 49ers. And I'm not going
100%.
to put that on the players. That's on the coaching. Secondly, you need to sit Debo for 2 weeks, period.
Yep. Yep.
Sit him for 2 weeks, period. Let him heal up. You're going to need him later. Sit him down. Otherwise, you're
You
going to end
know,
up having another workhorse injury. And I think that's what Debo's real problem is right now, is that before Christian McCaffrey got there, Debo was their workhorse. Not only was he their wide receiver, but he was their starting running back at the time, too.
the wide back. I
They
mean,
got
and to
they
your
got Christian McCaffrey so Debo could go back to wide receiver.
right.
Let's not mince words here. That's the reason why that he became they got Christian McCaffrey. They didn't just get him because he was available. They spent good money on getting Christian McCaffrey, and that was to have a dual threat. Whereas if you move Debo into the backfield, he's no longer a wide receiver threat. If you move Debo to wide receiver, he's no longer a threat in the backfield. By having Christian McCaffrey and Debo, and you add Ayuk to it, and now Mason, you have a dynamic offense that goes with and complements Brock Purdy's abilities. Now, with the injuries that have come up, it's been a little bit harder. I'm not forgetting about you, George Kittle, but you're a tight end. We're not talking about you
Yeah,
guys right now. You know,
100%.
and with when you add those players to what Brock Purdy's capabilities are, you create an offense that is spectacular. Now, the problem that I have with Shanahan is he has not adjusted to not having his star players, and he keeps calling the same plays. And really, Brock Purdy's going to get injured again if he doesn't protect them.
But let me say this to that point. The reason I brought up the rushing yards and what you just said about that offense with all these players out, what I saw from Brock is what I saw in the NFC Championship game last year against Detroit. Brock
Yep.
Purdy said, fuck this. I'm going to show y'all who I am, and I'm going to make this. I'm going to be the reason why I win this game. And he actually won that game. Those critical moments, those critical plays, he made those plays with his feet. Because the reason I'm bringing that up, because of what you just said, the biggest issue with the Niners offense this year has been the receiver, besides the injuries, the receivers and their lack of separation, right? And because the receivers can't separate, I believe it's 2.7 yards per separation, which is I think the bottom in the league. The Brock Purdy has not had the windows he's been accustomed to make those throws. And I mean, I don't care. Maybe two or three quarterbacks can succeed. I don't think actually. I don't even say maybe one or two. Actually, I'll probably just say one. Number 15 in Kansas City. That would be the only one who I would trust to basically work with this receiving core without without separation. And even then, I think he would struggle too because you saw him struggle last year with his receivers weren't up to par. So
Yep.
you can't handicap Brock Purdy, and you can't expect him to produce the same results. But the fact of the matter is, Brock Purdy is up for contract extension. And what I saw from last night is what I absolutely love to see. Y'all can go check out the YouTube shorts on the channel. The NFC Championship runs, those scrambles, the scramble in the Super Bowl, even though they end up losing, Brock is what is the difference maker. He's that X factor that Kyle Shanahan has never had in the scheme, in the system. And the reason that Brock is the X factor is because when the play breaks down, unlike Shanahan's other quarterbacks, Brock can actually make plays with his feet. And he looked like Lamar Jackson last night, just scrambling all over the place. Now, granted, the Cowboys defense is also banged up a bit, so we have to take that with context. But I saw Brock do this in the NFC Championship game last year. So I am very, very stoked to see if Brock can basically do this again. In this next game again after this bye week. Juwan Jennings comes back. You mentioned Debo; he should get some rest. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Ayuk's obviously after the season, but JJ coming back is going to be huge. Paris Hall looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Paris Hall in his second game looked pretty good. Against the Cowboys last night. So I like what I saw from Ricky. I like what I saw from Garendo. Let's give again the young fellow. I mean Garendo. I mean you can appreciate that playing the position. I mean the little bowling ball man and before 3 speed at 229 pounds. I mean that's incredible. So icing the game. I mean we saw him do it against Seattle. So I mean you're right. I mean I think that without the weapons, Brock is not going to be Superman, but at the same time, he's making plays with his legs, and I love it. And you know what? At some point, Kyle's going to have to your point, and what you and I criticize Kyle about, he's going to have to be comfortable with handing the keys over to Brock and letting him command the offense and audible at the line of scrimmage. Once he does
Exactly.
that, Once he does that, it's game over. Because essentially then Brock will basically have completed his full, in my opinion, Brock will have completed his maturation and his development. Of course, you never complete it because you want to get better every single year. But I mean, Brock at the age of 24 years old could definitely benefit from starting to do that because he's good enough to basically call audibles and basically make those plays, at the line of scrimmage. So, shoot, catch. Kudos to Brock. Kudos to the team getting the win. Defense, and you mentioned first half effort. I wholeheartedly agree. I actually don't think I was impressed with that second half, specifically in the fourth quarter with the defensive miscues. Jair Brown running into Renardo Green and then basically leaving CD wide open, uncovered, for that first touchdown. And then again, I mean, the scheme, you mentioned coaching. I agree. It is coaching. It is coaching fallacy to leave CD Lamb wide open for 2 touchdowns. I mean, come on. He is a $35 million a year receiver, right? I mean, you don't let that guy. I mean, yeah, the philosophy. Oh yeah, no, let this guy beat you. No, you don't let CD beat you.
No, you don't. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah, you take him away. You double him, right? Hell, if you need to, you triple him, and then you make the other guys. I mean, I don't even know the other receivers' names, honestly. That was my first time seeing those other guys on the field last night. So you make Dak beat you, and you basically have a much better chance of not only winning but winning decisively and putting the game away much sooner than you did. So Kyle, just after the game, I can appreciate that. Fred Warner, best linebacker of the game, addressed that as well. John Lynch also addressed that in the post game, with Rodney Harrison and Tony Dungy, right, saying that we have to become better at finishing. And surprisingly, John Lynch still said the expectation is to win a Super Bowl championship. Whether or not they win it this year is up for debate, and I'm not going to have that debate right now. I need to see more of what they are able to put together in the second half of the season. This back end of the season, basically, like you said, it's a tougher schedule. We'll see how it looks, obviously. But it's a good time to get healthy. Christian McCaffrey might be back in time for Week 10 against the Bucs, and obviously the Bucs have to go play Kansas City next week before the Niners come to town. It's definitely a good shot. If the Niners have a good shot winning that game, then Seattle comes to town, they have a good shot winning that game as well because they just got blown up by the Bills. So the Niners could be sitting at 6-4 before they head to NFC North and play your Green Bay Packers. So, I mean, not your Packers, but obviously your NFC North divisional rival Packers, and then obviously go on the road play the Bills, and then the Bears come to town, and you and I are gonna have fun with that episode. So, anyways, yeah. I mean, so yeah, I guess long story short, we're in agreement. Great win to kind of head to the bye, get some momentum. Love the belts. They could have been better. So obviously, George Kittle, George, if you're listening and watching, you probably aren't, but if you are, definitely, hook it up with Triple H, get connected to Bailey, get you some real hardware so NBC can award you guys something. And again, man, I mean, definitely, be more consistent. Nick Sorensen, the challenge is still out for Nick Sorensen and the defense. Defense doesn't look like a top 5 defense like it has these last couple of years. Obviously, you mentioned the last 2 out of 3 years, the NFC Championship game being 4-4. Well, but the defense was also much higher ranked across the board. So 6 and run defense is still pretty good. I'm not going to say it's not. They're not top 5. They're right at that edge. And I think now with Sam, with the emergence of Sam Okwanu next to Nick Bosa, that adds another element to that pass rush. We all thought Leonard Floyd was going to be that guy. He isn't, unfortunately, for whatever reason. But I like what I'm seeing from Sam O against Nick Bosa. Keep calling blitzes. Just keep that going. The front 4 rush coverage sacks is what Fred Warner said post game last night. If the Niners continue to do that, they'll have no issue getting back to the Niners of old, and there should be no reason why they can't go on a run and make the NFC Championship again.
I mean, their schedule isn't super hard. You brought up the Bears. I think the Bears have a tougher schedule than they do. I think the Bears have the toughest remaining schedule in football.
But again, the Bears. We're not talking about the Bears. I'm just talking about the Niners as opposed to last year, as opposed to the previous years. It's a tougher schedule relative to the previous.
Much tougher compared. We talked about this last year, and if you guys don't believe us, go look at the video from last year at this same point.
Check the film.
There's
check the film.
We got
the seats. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
The fact that the Niners had an easy schedule and that they should be. We said this week 5 that the Niners should be in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think we said it actually at week 8. That's when we said it, because that's when, again, and that's where week 9. That's where we are. Week 10. Hey, we same exact. We've had a sample size. Middle of the season. We're seeing things kind of mature. So again, why not? Again, but I can't say why not right now because of what we've seen them put on film against divisional rivals, but they should have otherwise dominated. They should have dominated the Rams. They should have dominated the Cardinals. They should actually be sitting here. If we're being honest, they should be sitting here at 6-2. You know, that's the truth, but they're not. So unfortunately, they're sitting in a one game disadvantage as opposed to last year being 5-3. But obviously, and actually now we are going to talk about your Bears. But I think just to wrap up the Niners and that football matchup, and if I'm not mistaken, it was record viewership across the board. Cowboys and Niners games always draw record numbers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like around 38 million viewers. It's something ridiculous. So
It's always going to be one of the biggest draws. We talked about this last year during the same game. Did they play them twice? Did they play them twice this year or no?
No, just once.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this again.
Go ahead.
If the Cowboys somehow manage to find their way into the playoffs again, the Niners are going to beat them again. And I'm going to stick
Absolutely.
with that.
The Niners are 4-0. Kyle Shanahan's 4-0 against the Cowboys in his tenure as head coach. I mean, Brock is 3-0. Those three of those wins are with Brock Purdy at the helm.
One of them was a blowout last year, if you remember that.
Yeah, 42-10. And I mean, honestly, that's why I'm not giving them an A. I'm giving them a B because they should have blown them out. It was 27-10 heading into the fourth quarter. If the defense got stopped, if Brock almost got picked off, it was almost a pick six near the end. And fortunately, he was able to, reel that back in. Or I guess he didn't reel back in. He was lucky the guy didn't catch it. But, I just think there was a little bit of miscue. I think he was trying to be a little too aggressive. But, I mean, ultimately now, they're staying at 4-4, just one game behind as to where they were last year, one game behind in the division. That's all you need to do: win the division, get in the tournament, and then and let the chips fall from there. So you're right. I agree. You're 100% correct. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play out this rest of the season. They're going to get healthier. They're going to get some guys back. And if they can use Tampa Bay, if they can win that game on the road, then basically go play, Seattle when they come to town. Those are two games. If they're able to win those games, go get up to 6-4, then they can sit, in a much better position when they have to go to Grant Lambeau, take on Packers, and then following that go into Ralph Wilson, I believe, or sorry, Arthur Ashe Stadium, and go play the Buffalo Bills. So that's definitely going to be interesting to watch. So let's see. The next four games will definitely tell us who the Niners are, and I'm looking forward to it. Now they're getting healthier. Now, you mentioned the Bears. Let's go there. Now let's talk about your Chicago Bears, your beloved Chicago Bears. I'm not even going to introduce us. I'm going to let you handle this segment. Talk to me, buddy. What's going through your mind today?
The Chicago Bears offense is completely anemic, despite the fact that they have a billion playmakers in Caleb Williams. This is always going to come back down to play calling. And that's just what it is. Everybody wants to act like it's not, but it's what it is. It's play calling. And if you don't think that that's the case, then I think that you need to go back and relearn what football is. And I really think that what's his name? It's not Warden, right? It is Waldron, not Warden.
Yeah, Waldron.
It's Waldron. Waldron needs to be fired, and I think that Eberflus needs to be fired too.
Yeah. What did you think about the alignment near the end? Obviously, it's a Hail Mary pass, right? Everyone, you drop back deep. I just think that the positioning, in that end zone. Now, granted, Jaden Daniels is looking like he's going to become the first ever player to win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. It's very possible. But what did you think about that? Just like the alignment near the end.
Number one, Chicago had a defensive back that was basically in the stands during the final play.
Yeah.
And his lateness to the play as the play was developing is what caused the tip to the end zone.
Yeah.
And he should be fined by his team, if not benched, for that type of behavior. You just cost your team a win. Sometimes football is hard. That's just how it is, guys. Sometimes football is hard. And sometimes playing a team like Washington and keeping them to under 20 points is hard. They've been averaging 30 plus every week. The Bears defense is brilliant. You mean to tell me we had a 18 to 12 game? 18 to 15 game? That's insane. 18 to 15 game against basically the number one team in football.
Well, besides the Chiefs.
Yeah, besides the Kansas City Chiefs. We're not going to talk about them. It's aside from the Chiefs, the number one team in football, and because the Vikings lost twice now.
Yep.
And it's it would have behooved the Bears to take it seriously at the end. And because they didn't take it seriously, this one game might have cost them their entire division. And let's keep it real. The Vikings are good. The Packers are all right. And Detroit is really good.
Right.
You're going to have a tough time. And there's the losing games that you should have won. This is a game that they should have won. This is a game that they fought all the way to the end and should have won.
Yep.
There's no explanation for this. It's the same as the NFC, as the NFC conference championship when the Bears had the game won and then just double doinked. There wasn't even any wind in the stadium when he double doinked. This is bringing back bad flashbacks. Okay, I'm just keeping it 100 here. There was no way that the Chicago Bears should have lost that game with under 8 seconds of play left. That was lackadaisical football. That was putting the cart before the horse. There was every euphemism that you can give on how to not play football. And for some reason, every single year, especially under Flus, the Bears show you how not to play football. And that's a problem. That's a problem. We should not be worried about how not football. You should be worried about how to play football. And I just can't, man. I can't. Like everybody was laughing at me, and I was like, I think it's funny. And they're like, why do you think it's funny if you like the Bears? Because this is what they do. They do stupid shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I really think that, this was a very winnable game. Well, your point you just made, though, was really interesting about the Commanders holding them under, 20 points. I think that's a very massive point because Commanders have been on this epic roll, just dominating opponents. And I think, even from my perspective, like, when you think about winnable games, like I'm going to go back to the Super Bowl, this past Super Bowl back in February, when the Niners were playing the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs were not playing spectacular, but they played. Brock and the team played good enough to win, but the defense did not do their job when they needed to, right? And obviously against a good quarterback. And I think Jane Daniels he's a good, if not on his way to becoming a great quarterback. Obviously, it's his first year in the league, so we'll see. But like against a good quarterback, like you're gonna have especially in these moments, like you said, it comes down to coaching, it comes down to alignment, it comes down to a sense of urgency. Of course, if you're Matt Eberflus, you have to shoulder some of this blame. Caleb Williams, first overall pick, you lose to the second overall pick. I mean that there's something to that, man. I mean, if you lose, you have to take this, on the chin. And I really think to your point, I totally agree. When you have a winnable game, especially like when we talked about the Niners last week, and that's why I was so frustrated. The Chiefs are literally fucking that game up to such disbelief to where Kyle could have went for 2, could have been 14 all, and then they could have like kept going. Like it's Kyle's lack. True. Like I just can't accept. Like to your point, I can't accept you not winning a winnable game when you are literally in position to win that game, and for the majority of that game, even heading to the fourth quarter. Super Bowl 58, for all, like I said, even though I said, I mean, I don't care. I do care that the Niners, I mean, I care. I care that they lost that game. But again, the Chiefs, I mean, you see them now. I mean, this is a dynasty. I mean, if there's no other doubt, we're going to talk about Chiefs right after this. But I really just think Niners had that chance and it slipped through their fingers. The Bears had this game and it slipped through their fingers. I mean, it's really frustrating as a fan, and especially like, for you and me playing at any level, right? Semi-pro, minor league, whatever. It's really hard because you're just like, man, like, you feel for the players, you feel for like, everyone involved in this situation. And it's tough, man. It's tough, but I mean, that's the NFL. So, we'll see what happens. I agree with you. The NFC North is a bloodbath. I think Detroit's winning that division. And guess who Niners have to play in December 30th, right before the regular season ends, right before they play the Cardinals to end out the season? The Detroit Lions come to town for a rematch of the NFC Championship game of this past year. So, I mean, that is the best. NFC North, in my opinion, is the class of the NFC. I can't think of another division that has so much talent from top to bottom. I mean, you have 3 playoff teams. The Bears being a potential wildcard team, but then you have 3 solid playoff teams, like you said, in Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay. And Green Bay won their game yesterday. They're finding ways to win. Detroit obviously did their thing. Minnesota lost to the Rams because now the Rams are getting healthier, so the Niners are going to have work cut out for them, and they can play them again. But yeah, NFC North's a tough division. The Bears really missed an opportunity here by not winning this game, just like how the Niners missed opportunity by not
It's
winning
going
the
to
Super
come
Bowl.
down to I'm going to tell you this right now.
Yeah.
Later on in the season, they're going to need a game.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's going to bring up the fact that they could have won this one.
That's
Washington would not have been
exactly
hurt by losing this game. They would
right.
not have been hurt by losing this game.
Exactly, and that's exactly my point with the
needed to
Niners.
win it, and Washington did not have to win it.
100%, and that's exactly my point with the Niners because had they won those games against exactly, yeah, if the Niners had won those games against Arizona and against the Rams, they again 6-2 is much more different than 4-4, especially in the stacked NFC. Like 6-2 is a difference maker, because then yeah, go ahead.
Bears should be 6-2, should they not?
Yeah, the Bears should be 6-2. Yes, absolutely.
Both the Bears and the Niners should be 6-2.
Well, yeah. Fortunately, the Niners are plagued by injuries, and now they're going to start getting healthier. And this is the time to get healthier. This is when I do the magic in November and December, heading into January. So I'm excited for that. But now we just talked about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are now sitting at 7-0. This is their best start in franchise history since 2013. They are looking to three-peat. Can the Chiefs go undefeated? And do you think is there any obstacle to the Chiefs' run outside of the Chiefs beating themselves and injuries?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear.
Okay. I think that if the Niners would have been able to beat the Chiefs, it would have not imploded the team, but it would have turned them into not a super team anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that loss would have been a catalyst. And I'm not saying that the Chiefs aren't capable of being a super team forever, at least while Patrick Mahomes is their quarterback. I'm just saying that, this was the time.
That was it. That was the opportunity, man. The Bengals too. The Bengals had an opportunity to beat Chiefs at Arrowhead. It could have been Burrowhead, but then they didn't. They weren't able to close the deal.
What happens to teams who blow their opportunities?
They end up going the other direction.
And that's the problem that we have. Like Chicago has two blown wins this year, two legitimate blown wins. They were up. They were winning. The game was over. 2 blown wins for Chicago this year. I believe San Francisco has
2. Yep, 2 blown wins. Yeah, Niners, Bears both have 2 blown wins. So, I mean, I totally agree. I think, the Chiefs are their own obstacle, and I don't see anyone really beating them. Maybe the Bills, maybe some other team, or maybe some random team. But yeah, beating the Raiders, I think Andy Reid now has the winningest percentage of any coach at Allegiant Stadium. Patrick Mahomes is now undefeated in Allegiant Stadium as well. So it's crazy. All right, y'all. Looks like Cortez is having a little bit of issues, but let's go ahead and segue. All right. So yeah, obviously we talked about the Chiefs, we talked about the Niners, we talked about the Bears, and we talked about the obviously Commanders, and now we talk about the Cowboys. So also want to talk a little bit about some other teams coming up. I think I saw the Eagles beat the Bengals. So the Eagles are looking really good with Saquon. I think the Saints kind of struggled a bit. So the Saints aren't really that team. And obviously, but the Bucks, having lost 3 straight, and look at Cortez is back. All right, baby, how we feeling?
I'm good.
All righty, like you said, I was finishing off your segment before you dropped. I was just saying I was agreeing with everything you said because what you just said was
going to make a point to what you said too.
Go ahead.
the Bills would scare Kansas City a lot more
Mm-hmm.
if Josh Allen played like Superman against good teams.
Yep, that's a very
Josh
good
Allen,
point.
his entire career, has played like Superman against bad teams. His
Right.
best numbers have come against really, and every year everyone gets all hyped up about when he plays really good teams. He doesn't really beat them like that. I'm just keeping it real.
Right. I think when you saw the Bills play the Ravens, that was kind of really telling. Because
That was telling. It was.
when the Ravens blew them out 35-10, I mean that just kind of told you like there's levels to this shit. Obviously the Bills have gone the upper edge on Lamar. Lamar has also got it's kind of been a back and forth battle over the years, but that was like to your point. I think we need to see. And I hate to say that's a criticism on Brock Purdy too. But I think Brock Purdy, I would still take him just from a mental decision standpoint, not from an arm talent and that type of standpoint, because Josh Allen has a much stronger arm than Brock. But I mean, I think Brock Purdy's decision making is really what I love about what separates them because you need to be able to have it up here above the shoulders, opposed to just being an outwardly talent. Now Brock still has to your point. I need to see him beat the Chiefs. I need to see him beat top 5 defenses because you saw him against the Ravens. He did beat the Lions. He did beat the Packers last year. And now, obviously, he hasn't beat anyone of quality, I want to say, of this season. So we're going to see him against the Bucks. We're going to see him against the Seahawks again. He did beat the Seahawks. That's great. But we'll see him against the Packers, and we'll see him against Josh Allen's Bills. So, yeah, the Niners, if they're all fully healthy, we'll see how that game goes. And that could be a legacy-defining game for Josh Allen, the Bills, because that could help them.
If they don't beat them, nobody will.
Yep, exactly. If the Bills don't beat the Kansas City Chiefs, I just think
this
so.
Will be a Patriots/Dolphins season for them if the Bills don't beat them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 17-0 type of situation for the Chiefs if the Bills don't stop them, or if someone, I don't know who.
Because the Chiefs aren't even firing on all cylinders yet. That's what's scary. They're not playing their best football and they're still winning games.
That's what makes it terrifying because they're without their leading receiver, Rashee Rice, their best receiver rather. Xavier Worthy looks great for a rookie, but I mean he's a rookie. I mean, and Travis Kelce hasn't been playing up to par. Kareem Hunt is looking like he has he drink from the fountain youth or something. I mean, I think he's all over the field on Sunday against the Raiders. So, I mean, this is a really, really interesting team where it's like they're just to your point, they're finding ways to win. And it's honestly, as a football fan, as a purist, it's just fun to watch because it's really, really old school football. It's not like the Chiefs of the old where it's flashy and Patrick Mahomes beats you with his arm and then it's like 50-yard throws and off platform. It's really, really methodical. It's Kareem Hunt grinding you up the middle, and the offensive line wearing you down. Patrick Mahomes using the play action. Patrick Mahomes scrambling, and Brock Purdy's taking some of those cues from Patrick, from Mahomes in terms of how he is able to kind of come up with these off-cue runs. It's really, really interesting because the Chiefs are not winning as they've used to, and it's a fun kind of time to watch if you're a football fan because it's if any purists wanted to watch this game, then essentially, that would basically be, the tell-all of wow, this is traditional sound football. It's boring for anyone who's never played. It's boring for anyone who doesn't like that fun of football, but it's fun for anyone who loves football in its purity. So, yeah, the Chiefs are their own obstacle. So I think we're going to end the NFL recap there unless you have anything else you want to highlight. But I think that's pretty much it for me. I think the Chiefs are going to continue running the table. Niners have been getting healthy at the right time. Bears are going to struggle being, now at the bottom of their division against a very stacked NFC North. Anything else to close out the NFL segment, brother, for a transition?
To any NFL player or team or G somehow happened to this podcast and hear what we have to say. Just know that, and your viewership is down in many markets, especially Chicago. Chicago's viewership is down right now, and that which is down from the way it was earlier this season. And you have lost a lot of fans already this year, and now you're the laughing stock of the internet, at least for this week 8. 9, right? 9. You got half the season left to prove to us that this was a good decision, because right now there's a guy over there in Pittsburgh that everybody likes. That's just the
Yep.
bottom line.
That's
So
a
do your
that's
best.
a that's a mic drop. Yep. Bears, Eberflus. I mean Ryan Pace. If you're listening, watching, better pay attention because the Bears fans are tuning you out unless you can find ways to string together wins. That's a perfect way to segue. Let's talk about WWE Raw and SmackDown. Let's talk about the Bloodline. I mean, golly. I'm gonna start with Raw. You and I, we're talking, going back and forth on stipulations, fantasy booking, scenarios, right? Jay Uso, and that was my biggest kind of mental hurdle to overcome. I didn't see how Jay Uso would get re-injected to the Bloodline storyline unless he dropped the belt. And what did Triple H do?
I called it.
Did you?
I did. I
All
called it a
right.
couple of weeks ago, and I said
Mm-hmm.
that the bloodline is going to interfere with Jey Uso's rematch against Braun Breaker. And I
You
said
did
that
call that. Yes, you
I
did.
called
I
it. I
remember
called
now.
it to a T when it happened, and I was watching it. I was like, I definitely called this out to a
Check the film,
T.
y'all. Check the film.
I was not wrong at all.
Yep.
I was not wrong. I didn't miss any points there. I was
Yep.
even right about Roman not coming out to help Jay.
Right.
I didn't miss any points. What gave it away was the fact that Jay showed up randomly on SmackDown when he did not need
Mm-hmm.
to. The Bloodline had not interfered with Jey Uso. Jey Uso showed up to SmackDown, and when he showed up to SmackDown, the Bloodline got in his face and he got in theirs. And
Right.
I said, "That's all we need. They're going to go bother him on Raw. He's going to lose his title."
And yeah, and
I
I
thought it was going to
think
be at Crown Jewel though.
I did too. I thought it was going to be a Crown Jewel, and that was going to build that kind of storyline heading into Survivor Series. But I guess hey, there you go.
They're speeding up the story for some reason. Something's going on.
Something's going on. I mean, you and I talking about Hikuleo, you and I talking about all these other things, and obviously The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, is obviously going to be back at some point. I wonder if it has something to do with them wanting to get Roman back in the title picture or
They
something.
want
I mean,
Roman
or
in the
maybe,
title picture.
and so maybe that's why they want to put this to bed, and then they want Roman to go up against Cody at some point. I mean, and obviously I know fans, they're like, oh, I don't want to see Roman take it. I don't want to see The Rock. I don't want to see the same thing 3 years in a row. But I mean, bro, Roman's money. I mean, he's money.
We
Like,
we watched we watched John Cena be in the main event of WrestleMania like 6 times in a row, wasn't it?
yeah.
We watched Triple H be in
John's,
the main event of WrestleMania even more times than that.
yeah,
How many
well,
times
Triple
did
H is,
Triple H main event at WrestleMania?
God, don't remind me. I don't even want to think about Triple H in WrestleMania. I mean,
Today
I
today
like
I
Johnson.
watched like this is crazy that we're even bringing it up, but today
Yeah.
I watched Triple H's returns and Triple H's major feuds, and also a lot of DX clips, because I don't think you guys realize how funny that the first iteration of Degeneration X actually was.
Yeah. With Shawn Michaels and Triple
Yeah,
H, it
like
was unhinged.
they were hilarious. Like they were really funny. Not only were they really funny, but they were really good. They were
And
both
that's why it
really
worked.
good. You
That's why it
know,
worked.
China was really good. They were really good. And so okay, we talked about this before, but like it wasn't until I rewatched it today that I got a true appreciation. We've mentioned this before, but I've never gone into this deep of a detail about it. I
Okay.
got a true appreciation for why Brett hated Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because Shawn was getting on his nerves. That's not why Brett hated Shawn Michaels. Brett hated Shawn Michaels because Shawn Michaels is the reason why we have WWE today, and nobody can fight me on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without Shawn Michaels, there would not have been an Attitude Era, because he drove the Attitude Era when everybody else was still plumbers. You
Well,
know,
and he drove the Attitude Era when everyone was still in the PG kind of gimmicky kind of mode of
yeah,
thinking.
that's what I'm saying. Like they still had like job titles. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you saw like a lot of that came back in the Ruthless Aggression area, like with Right to Censor and stuff like that. Like, a lot of those job titles started coming back, and that era's gone for now. I'll say
Yeah.
for now, but the era is gone for now. And Sean kind of just like he stepped out, and he was just a rock star And that was what his character was. Not only was his character a rock star, but like he lets you know, like, this is who I am.
Right.
And I'm going to make jokes about real life. I'm going to simulate things that people find funny. The world that we live in is not clowns and chickens running around or clowns and turkeys. You know what I'm saying? You know exactly what I'm talking
Yes.
about. I don't even want you to
Yes,
say the
sir.
name out loud.
Okay, I won't.
Actually, you know what? I want you to say it. I want you to say it because I want people to understand this because no one talks about this except Triple H. And we know why Triple H talks about this because it was part of his punishment.
The gobbledygooker.
Yes. Tell me that's not the most Vince McMahon created name that you've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean the gobbledygooker. It's funny though. Doink the Clown, the original Doink the Clown was actually modeled after it. It
Yes.
the movie. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it
But and
was.
the original Doink for anyone who isn't brushed up on their history. The original Doink was actually scaring the shit out of kids, and it was working so well. But the reason why they had to scrap it and make it a comedic character was because Vince basically had to go on trial for steroids back in 93, 94. And after that, then he wanted to, kind of, polish the image of the WWF a little bit. And kind of to what we're talking about, Brett and Sean. This is right before Sean basically emerged as kind of like the bad boy, right? It was kind of like Brett was the wholesome, cool guy, the kid, hey, Brett, or Brett, like the music hits. And then basically it's like, okay, yeah, you can, and Brett would say, yeah, you can trust your kids or watch, someone who's not going to do drugs, not going to curse, or not necessarily not curse, but someone's a good role model, right, on TV. And that's what Vince was trying to get. But the problem was WCW when once they got Hogan, that's when the obviously the tides turned, right? And Eric Bischoff and WCW started whooping that ass. We talked about it last time on the show about the Sting and everything. They started whooping WWF's ass, for weeks. So Sean, to your point, back to your original point, that's when Sean started turning the tide and saying, like, because Brett's mantra was, if the wrestling is good, the fans will come. But Sean's mantra was, no, you can't just be a good You can't just be a good wrestler. You have to perform, and you have to have some pizzazz to your elements. And so he was a pioneer of leading that, and that's kind of what was kind of to your point, playing the early seeds of what would eventually become the Attitude with D-Generation X and all these other kind of figures. And it's really interesting because, like, Sean and Brett, obviously those two guys are great. And what we're seeing with Roman, and what we're seeing with WWE as a whole right now, I mean, Gunther called it out in his promo, even though it was a kayfabe promo on Cody, it was really a shoot when he said that one line about wrestling is in a boom period and you're responsible for it. Cody and Roman have actually brought wrestling back to, like I said, 2002 levels in terms of attendance. And actually, it's not just me saying that. That's Dave Meltzer, WWE's number one bona fide hater, right? AEW's, suck off artist, Dave Meltzer, who won't stop sucking off AEW and Tony Khan's penis for whatever reason. He basically said WWE is now in a boom period where it has record numbers of attendance figures since 2002. And Dave Meltzer, if anyone watches or knows anything about wrestling, you guys know Dave Meltzer always questions attendance figures for any major event. WrestleMania 3, he said when there was 92,000, he said 78,000. WrestleMania, whatever, 17, 67,000. Dave Meltzer said maybe 58,000. Dave Meltzer is literally the guy in the back of the room who you don't want. No one pays attention to, so he starts screaming, So if Dave Meltzer is saying that right now, that tells you Cody and Roman are doing something right. Congratulations to Cody, by the way, for eclipsing 200 days as champion. Well done, champ. Congratulations. We got that undisputed title up there. Maybe I'll bust it out next episode. Signed by you. But back to the point of what you're saying, what kind of Raw I was trying to go with this to wrap up Raw. I don't care about anything else on Raw except for the fact that what you saw when we talked about, the Bloodline came and they interfered and they dropped Jay the title. They cost Jay the title. He had to drop the title. Jay was resistant of joining the Bloodline, but that was kind of the main event. What kind of drove main event Jay Uso to kind of come back. Now let's pivot to SmackDown. Talk to me about what your impression were about SmackDown and kind of just talk to me.
Well, I mean,
Well, I think we lost him for a bit. Once he comes back, I'm going to talk about my impressions because I thought it was a phenomenal show. Obviously the Motor City Machine Guns, coming and being able to have a great match with DIY and
I think
Tama
that's kind
Tonga
of
Tonga. Go ahead.
like I think it's a SmackDown's a good show, and I think that's really all there is to it. Like Raw could be a little bit better. Um, to be honest, it hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
as interesting as SmackDown, but
Mm-hmm.
SmackDown is a good show. There's so many interwoven storylines, and now you have the Motor City Machine Guns being interjected into this story and giving some relevance with an incredible match against DIY, which I wasn't expecting DIY to come out looking like that, but an incredible match against DIY elevates them in a rivalry that's created with them that you can actually put back and forth. DIY is former tag team champions, this new era of tag team champions. Um,
Right.
and now you have the Motor City Machine Guns legitimized as tag team champions in WWE. They remind me a little bit of a new age era of like the Brian Kendrick and Paul London, but that's kind of what WWE needed because they were very fun to watch.
Yeah.
And like even though you might not know them, they're a little bit older now. I don't want to call them grizzled young vets. I don't want to call them that, you know what I'm saying? But these guys are going to inject some life into the tag team scene, especially because the Tongans didn't need the tag titles to effectuate what was going on here. And it doesn't really help the Tongans have the tag titles if Solo doesn't have the title.
100%. Because again, this new bloodline, Solo wasn't created to be a champion that you have to go up against like a Triple H. Solo's created to be an imposter that you guys think is trying to convince himself that he's Roman, and then the fans are supposed to turn up against him, which is working so far. But to your point, and actually let's kind of back up a bit. What did you think about the bloodline? Jay basically dropping the belt, like as I had initially kind of foresaw, and then basically now being rejected to cost the Tongans their titles to the Motor City Machine Guns, and obviously then Bloodlines near the end of the show doing the ones to close out the show. What did you think about now where the Bloodline storyline's heading? Because now the Bloodline has now got the upper edge, heading into Crown Jewel, and obviously I am very keen to watch the SmackDown. I'm
Well,
not gonna watch, but yeah, go ahead.
well, I saw a thumbnail before we started that had
Uh-huh.
spoiler alert, but actually it's not really a spoiler because this show is going to come out after Raw is over. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy and Jay Uso are face to face in the ring on Raw about 30 minutes ago.
Wow.
So Raw's going to be watchable for me just so I can get to that section. I don't know if it started the show off. I don't know if it ended the show, but one, you guys are crazy if you think Jey Uso is done with the main event title scene. You guys are also crazy if you think Jimmy's not going to get injected somewhere. You're also crazy if you think that Sammy's not going to rejoin the bloodline. At this point, they've already built to it. I don't need it, but Sammy's going to do it.
Yeah, no, Sammy's gonna get part of it. I mean, yeah, it makes sense to bring Sammy back into it if it's not gonna be fighting for the main event title. But yeah, man, I think this is what drives revenue. You know,
Here's the thing,
I
though.
think.
Do you inject KO? Because KO is on Raw too. No, SmackDown.
Hmm?
Do you inject KO into this? Because you kind of have to, don't you?
I think to some level, it makes sense. I just don't know how. I think it makes sense if Sammy's back, then KO needs to definitely be involved. If Sammy comes back, then you have to bring KO back because the whole kind of heel turn.
Well,
I
KO's a
mean,
heel.
that's what I'm saying. So with KO being a heel, right? If Sammy comes back as a face to join the bloodline as a face, then KO can basically be that heel to kind of pair, 1-to-1, kind of even the odds a little bit. Because I think The Rock is also, I mean, obviously The Rock is going to be reintroduced at some point too, and he's probably going to be on the side of Solo, as like the elder. So it makes sense to KO to kind of, be there to kind of even the odds a little bit.
Well, yeah, I don't know if Solo without a title, Solo doesn't have the same star power.
That's the problem. I mean, I think, it's believable to a point where you just want to see Roman come out and you want to see Roman beat someone's ass and just Roman, get over. And the story makes sense. But at the same time, you know, and this is kind of the issue with Cody. Cody doesn't have a supervillain right now. You know, Cody being the mega over face, who is a supervillain that Cody can really go up against and, beat? You know, that's why I personally think Cody needs to turn heel. And I think Roman needs to stay face. Because I think Roman and Cody need to run it back for a third time, get the trilogy, make history, First ever time ever. We have 3 WrestleManias headlined by the two major players in the industry. People are saying Randy Orton, against Cody. I get that. Randy was one of my favorites growing up too, but I just don't know, man. I don't know if it makes sense to have Randy take the belt, or because Randy already took Cody, like, I'm always gonna be there. I'm not gonna let anyone, I'm gonna have your back, this and that. Because Randy kind of helped kind of break Cody into the industry 15 plus years ago. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to see anyone else right now except for Roman taking the belt from Cody, unless they have Cody turn heel and then somehow LA Knight, if he drops the belt to Melo or Andrade, they make LA Knight basically become that guy to go up against Cody. I mean, that would be a crazy twist of events, but I don't think WWE is going to go that far because WWE wants to be somewhat, they want to be some level of predictability. So I think that's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be Roman and Cody
Who
for a third time.
who wins at Crown Jewel?
Which match?
Cody versus Gunther.
I don't know. I'm guessing Cody. I don't know, man. I mean, because Gunther already won in Saudi for the King of the Ring event, so maybe it makes sense to have Cody do it, so that way gives that face image to that new belt. But then it makes sense for Gunther to do it. But Gunther, I don't see Gunther coming out winning clean. I could see him winning with maybe Ludwig Kaiser's interference, but then that sets up for Cody and Gunther feud, which doesn't make any sense because they're on different shows. So I think,
I mean, they're Cody attacked Gunther first.
Cody attacked him first, but
He had it coming.
yeah, he did. So
Don't
I don't know.
insult Dusty. You don't insult Dusty.
No, absolutely not. Gunther and his heel work has been phenomenal. I guess that's one bright spot of Raw.
Who isn't somebody's contract up in like a couple of weeks?
Ooh,
And they've been mentioning him a lot lately.
talk to me.
There is a man named Dustin Rhodes whose AEW
Ooh.
contract is up in a few weeks.
Man.
And they've been mentioning him for the first time. If you remember, they didn't mention Dustin at all over the last couple of years. Not
Yeah.
since not since he went to AEW, but for the last couple of weeks. But matter of fact, I know you're a little bit incapacitated. I'm gonna look this up for you right now. When is
Go ahead.
Dustin Rhodes' contract up?
No, I actually read that on some forums today on Reddit and whatnot. Like, I can see it, but I don't understand how they would do it. You know what I mean? I can see Dustin coming back and supporting Cody, but then I would see Cody
Well,
being
everybody
more.
else is there. Tully Blanchard's there. Arn Anderson is there. Um, what's his name? I always want to call Sean Spears Ty Dillinger, but it's Sean Spears. You know, you know, I the fact that they mentioned him like the last couple of weeks in a row kind of makes me think that something is happening.
I do think something is happening. I just don't know how. But I don't know because I don't see. Here's where I digress, or kind of where I like defer, because I see Dustin coming back and working with Cody either in a support role or a feud role, but I don't see them actually putting the belt on Dustin.
They're not going to
Not
put
at
the
this
belt
point in
on
the career.
Dustin. No, they're not putting the belt on
Yeah,
Dustin. But I think Dustin will be good in a support role.
that's what I'm saying.
Like
I agree with
he's a good
that.
enough wrestler to wrestle anyone, but he's good in a support role. Maybe even a secondary champion. And I'm not saying that Dustin can't win a title. I can see Dustin beating Gunther. Well,
Yeah,
no, I can see I can see Dustin beating Gunther, but I don't think it'd be a long title run. I think it would be a short title run. But that's just because of how good Dustin is. And no offense to Cody, but Dustin is way more durable than Cody is.
yeah. Like the whole thing with Dustin. It's funny because you mentioned that. Like Rock was the first one to actually bring it up. It wasn't until Rock came back this year to kind of work with Cody to build up WrestleMania at 40. We didn't hear Dustin's name at all until The Rock cut the
Dustin
promo on. You go
Dustin's
ahead.
contract Dustin's contract is already expired. It expired in
Mhm.
September.
So he's just been sitting on the couch, basically. He's been sitting on the couch. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, he hasn't done anything in AEW.
I think that tells you, and that tells me, and that tells anyone watching, the whole wrestling community, the online wrestling community, that Dustin Rhodes is most likely in talks with Triple H. That's what it tells me. Like he's probably in talks right now with WWE to figure out something. Like they did with CM Punk when
Yeah.
CM Punk's contract expired. They're keeping it low, and then yeah. So, anyways, yeah. I think I think that's that sounds like a good plan, for what they're gonna do. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens here with Cody, with Dustin. Um, yeah, I'm really excited to see, what happens with the Bloodline storyline. Let's talk about kind of an interview because Triple H actually clapped back about about Swerve and Lashley's comments about not pushing a black star. Triple H basically said, in a press conference that he's like, I don't look at color. I see talent, which is something that Mr. McMahon said. Mr. McMahon said, I only color I see is green. Like if you can draw, make money. What is your take on Triple H's comments? And do you agree that, that he's basically that these allegations are unfounded?
Say it one more time.
Do you agree that the allegations from Lashley as well as Swerve about Triple H not pushing a black champion in over what is it 2 years are unfounded? Because Triple H basically clapped back on those comments and said,
Man, that's such
I,
a hard one.
mhm,
Yes and no. Um, it's a fact that Triple H has never been keen on black or African American talent
mhm,
on the main roster. It's
okay,
not a fact that because Triple H gave more black talent chances in AEW than anybody else ever.
right.
You got to think we had champions like we had Keith Lee as a champion. You know, we've had a lot of champions that were black. Look at Carmelo, look at Trick, look at who's the other one that the Obafemi. Um,
There's a
who was
lot.
before Keith Lee? There was a lot. Let's just say
Biggie.
Big E. There's been a lot of black champions, especially on the women's side, than what he's getting credit for. I think what the bigger problem is that people need to understand something, and I'm going to be very real here. And this is going to a lot of black people are probably going to jump down my throat for saying this. Professional wrestling has never really truly been a black sport. And black people have been involved with it, but black people have never been the driving force behind professional wrestling. Now, let's say if this was the NBA or football or even Major League Baseball at times, that this has been the thing. But like it's just like hockey. You know, black Americans are not, and black people around the world are not the driving force behind professional wrestling. Yes, we're there, we exist, but we're not the driving force behind it. And the promoters, and especially the sponsors, they look to put money into the people that look like them. I hate to say it, and everyone loves people who look like them. Everyone does. Representation is everything. Do I think that black people would flock to black champions a little bit more as they do? Yes, they have done so. It's been proven that the numbers are better, you know, with when there's a black champion. The problem is, I think that there are other people outside of the company and outside of the sponsors and even the majority of the fan base that tune out when you have a dominant black champion. People tuned out of
Mhm.
Bobby Lashley's reign. People were starting to tune out of Kofi's reign. People tuned out of Big E's reign after week 3. And this not saying that they're not great champions, that they didn't deserve it, or that there was anything wrong with their title reigns. There was nothing wrong with any of those things. We're saying that they're not The Rock, and two, people. There's a lot of people who are still hateful, and I'm
Mhm.
sorry, that's just the facts. There are a lot of people that are still hateful. There's people who didn't want Jinder Mahal to be champion for no other good reason other than that he was Pakistani.
Yeah, Pakistani Indian. So I mean, and it's
And
one of those things. Yeah, good.
that's just what it is. Like, and I'm going to be honest here. I didn't mind Jinder as champion. I thought he was a great heel. I think he was a great wrestler, but I thought he was a great heel. I thought he had a believable character. I thought that his motivations were great. I thought that his presentation was pretty good. He wasn't the best on the mic, but he was effective enough on the mic to make you feel like, okay, this guy has the WWE championship and he's big and strong and nasty and he will cheat. And he does not care to cheat, to let you to pretend that he doesn't want to be Bret Hart.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be Bret Hart. And He doesn't care about putting on a great match. He cares about keeping his title. And that's what I bought into. And I think that's why the gender era was good. And people are like, oh, well, he was a terrible champion. Was he really? I think he was a pretty good champion. I think he was a pretty good heel champion. He just couldn't go as hard as some other people in the ring. And I think that sometimes his antics behind the scenes, they wrote him badly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was a heavy writing era. They wrote him very badly. They gave him stooges. And I don't mean like good stooges. Like DX, good stooges. Bloodline, good stooges. Imperium, great stooges. But the Singh brothers, you got these two midgets who act like they can't wrestle. If you guys don't know this, the Singh brothers are actually very, very, very good wrestlers.
Yeah.
They're very good. Just like the two brothers, starts with the Davari brothers.
Yeah.
The Davaris are very good wrestlers. They just did not have the same opportunities. Now, I really think that people need to start waking up and realizing that this is a business that's not just about great wrestling. And that's why you AEW marks get mad when we talk shit about the company. It's not just about having good wrestling. It's about an entire presentation and a story. I'm really happy that Solo got to be a better wrestler. I'm really happy that Tongaloa has become better in the ring than he was the first month, because he was trash the first month. And I'm hoping that Tama Tonga can find a way to connect to the crowd in a way that we want to connect to Tama Tonga, because when he first showed up, everyone was locked in. And I feel like him not having time on the mic, them not having like any character development other than just being their stooges, is hindering them. So hopefully after this Bloodline story, or even in the middle of this Bloodline story, because whether you guys want to believe this or not, this does not end at Survivor Series. I'm sorry. It didn't end at Survivor Series last year, the year before that, or the year before that. The story is not going to be over for at least 2 years, guys. You better just strap yourself in. And that's why it ramped up a bit, because they have to get this part of the story out. Are we going to see less Bloodline after Survivor Series? Yes, but it's not over. This is not going to be over. This is not going to be over. This is going to be an intertangled Bloodline story, especially if The Rock doesn't have much to do with WrestleMania this year. And you can mark my words on that. You can mark my words on that. We can look back at this in a couple of months, and I guarantee you that's what the case is going to be.
100%. All righty then. I think that pretty much wraps up our show today. You got our NFL recap, our preview. We got our WWE SmackDown Raw recap, Crown Jewel preview. Yeah, it's going to be a great event in Saudi. I'm looking forward to seeing who takes those belts from both shows for women's and men's. Any final thoughts before we close out this show, brother? This nightcap.
You guys, just like I said, always stay safe as possible, love your loved ones, and appreciate the fact that we live in a place where we can be entertained and we can spend our time on entertainment. And no matter how hard you work every day, if you have time for entertainment and if you have time to do things that make you happy, you should be grateful to something or someone.
100%. I echo those sentiments. Once again, thank you all for following. We are now at 125. We have gained 3 new subscribers. Thank you all. We have now eclipsed over 52,000 views. Thank you all once again for getting the 2,000, checking out the shorts, checking out the videos. We are also now encroaching over 1,000 likes on the channel, and we're now also encroaching over 100 comments and over 500 shares. We're getting right there. So thank you.
Hey guys,
appreciate it.
Thank you. We're
Yes.
trying.
Yeah, no, we're trying. We're happy. I would love it. So, I appreciate it.
I gotta say that to the people that don't understand. Like, I get questioned all the time, like, who watches your show? And I'm like, sometimes we get 400 views in a day. Sometimes we get 4. Doesn't stop us from working on the show.
100%. And it's not and we don't care about individual episodes, which ones perform. I care about the total aggregate views.
It's the channel, and we get to talk about this stuff. And, I think that once you guys can go back and start looking at these things that we talked about, like, I'm not saying that we're like fortune tellers or anything like that. We're just very good at paying attention. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been successful in life. And I know that's why you're successful in life, because you're very good at paying attention to things, and without giving too much away about what we do outside of, this and football. But that's that's what strive to. We strive to be accurate, to be authentic, and to make sure that we're delivering the type of content that we would want to watch. Because I know he watches the show and I watch the show too. And we're both here watching the show now while we're doing it. And I think it's great.
100%. 100%. Nope. Definitely. We definitely keep tabs on the world around us. So once again, DDOG Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, X, Asshole Reaper 24, Instagram, on X. Y'all already know what time it is, and y'all stay safe. Yes, sir. We will be back next week to talk Crown Jewel. We will also be talking about NFL. My boy's wrapping that belt. It's gonna be a big one this Saturday. I'm hyped to see who wins those new belts at Crown Jewel. That big WWE title belt. Y'all see this one right here. So y'all already know what time it is. Yes,
huge,
sir.
man.
It's big. It is
belts.
big. Yes, sir. Big gold belts. Yes, sir. Bigger than our heads, both of us. Anyways, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Stay safe. God bless. And once again, this is the DDOG Podcast.